So we got another Korean drama horror thriller movie. And this one comes recommended straight from my top tier patron, Greg C. You know Greg, he's requested quite a few really good movies here on the channel in the past. Except for that one time. Yeah, Greg, I ain't letting that one go. The Wailing is brought to us by director Hong-jin and stars Kwak Do-won, Jung-min, and Jun Kanamura. Sorry. Soon after, a stranger arrives in a little village. A sickness starts to spread. A policeman, drawn into the incident, is forced to solve the mystery in order to save his daughter. So The Wailing is a 2016 South Korean film that is interesting. In this small, quaint little village, it seems that people are starting to lose their fucking minds and kill people. It seems fairly small scale at first, but here, there, you've got like a family member that'll lose it and get like lesions all over their body and then just go and murder the whole fucking family. You know, like you do. This is a bit of a shock to the town because, as you could guess, this kind of thing doesn't happen every day. We follow a police officer named Jung-gu who gets involved in the investigation. Now, Jung-gu is not necessarily a great police officer. He's not even really a great person overall. He's not terrible, but he is definitely flawed. And that brings me to one of the things that I really like about these South Korean films of this ilk that I reviewed in the past little bit. The characters are always really well fleshed out. They're not perfect by any means. They're good people, but like real life people, they all have their own issues. Jung-gu is not a good guy by traditional movie standards, but if you look at him through the eyes of a person in real life, he is very much like and very relatable to people out there in the world. He's not a particularly good cop. He gets scared at things all the time at these crime scenes. He's tripping over stuff and making bad decisions. He's not the best husband or father. The guy's kind of a fuck up, but he does try. A lot of the movie involves the police officers investigating this older Japanese man who has moved into the mountains right outside of the town. And people start to talk and say, oh, it's that mysterious stranger who brought this sickness with him that's driving these people nuts and making them go kill their family. And the movie really toys with you, making you wonder, is it really him? Because the guy is kind of out there and we see some things that could corroborate that. Or is it just the town not being accepting of someone from the outside and saying, well, he's a stranger, so obviously he's the one who's doing this. Admittedly, the guy is really fucking weird though. For much of the movie, we don't really know. The movie does a really good job of having you question who really is behind all of this. There are times that you feel like you know for sure, but then something else comes up and just changes your perspective on it all. When this sickness eventually takes over Jung-go's younger daughter, that is when he really gets invested in the case. And I really loved the portrayal of this character during this time. He is desperate. While I said he's not the greatest dad or husband, I also said he does try. He obviously loves his daughter and he becomes extremely desperate and starts making really bad decisions. Because that's what someone would do in that situation. Your kid is sitting here writhing in pain. She's on death's doorstep. You've seen people with this exact same illness over the past few weeks end up murdering people or just kind of contorting their bodies and like dying just suddenly. He's scared. So yeah, he's looking for answers and maybe he's going about it the wrong way, but he's scared. That's his kid. And they did such a good job of conveying that. You really feel this guy when he's going around, even when he's making decisions that you're like, you know, that's probably not the best way to go about it. You should probably try something different. I think you're acting a bit irrational. You do understand why he's acting that way. And the movie takes its time to show you this to truly get you invested in what's going on and this character. Now, speaking of time, I hope you got some set aside to watch this movie because it is 2 hours and 40 minutes long. And while I did enjoy the film, I ain't gonna lie, it felt like it was 2 hours and 40 minutes long. This is a long movie, and not just in the actual time it takes to watch, it feels like a long movie. That doesn't mean it's bad, because looking back on it, I do feel as if everything that's in the movie was needed, if not to tell the story, to get you invested in the character. But that doesn't change the fact that it is fucking long. Now, the end of this movie is a lot of things. I can't really say, obviously, because it's the end of the movie, I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but yeah, there's some revelations situations that take place and just some things that happen, there are a whole lot of emotions that come up in the end of this movie. It's a tough ending, but the ending does fit the movie, I'll give it that much. Right after watching it, I wasn't 100% sure if I liked it, because there are things about the ending that answer questions that you do like. But there are other events that take place in the end of this movie that are incredibly difficult that you just don't like. But that doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means that you are really invested in some of the characters in this movie and some bad shit happened to them, so it affects you emotionally. So yeah, the movie was successful in that right. It elicited a very emotional reaction from me at the end of this movie. You'll be upset by some of the things that happen because you are very invested in these people. And while 2 hours and 40 minutes of this movie seems like a really long time, I do feel like that is what was needed to get that investment out of you. This is a slow, methodical story that did not need to be sped up. It needed to be told over a period of time. Now that time commitment's not gonna be for everybody because the pace here is pretty slow. But those of you that are okay with that, those of you that like to get to know the characters really well in the stories you're watching, I think that you're gonna really enjoy this. The movie's also got an underlying sense of humor that I really enjoy. I wouldn't call it like laugh out loud funny or anything, but it is a very realistic kind of comedy. Very much like another Korean film I watched, per Greg C's request again, Memories of Murder. It's a serious movie, much like that one, but it does have that realistic comedy that human beings tend to have. There are moments in this movie that I couldn't say were comedic or the whole entire situation was funny, but there are funny bits in it. That lent an air of realism to every scene in the movie. Performance-wise, everybody here did a fantastic job. I've been very impressed with the filmmaking that's been coming out of South Korea for quite some time, and The Wailing is no different. There's some really great performances here, and even though they're not speaking my native language, the performances here were so good that it came through the subtitles. Now, the movie's not all drama all the time. We do get some more exciting scenes, and these scenes typically involve a bit of gore. This is something else I thought the movie handled very well. It's all very realistic looking, but it is a lot of it. It's not throughout the whole movie by any means, but when it happens, it is extremely jarring and very effective. Overall, I really enjoyed the story of The Wailing. It is drawn out, but it needed to be. Could it have been cut shorter? Sure it could have, but it wouldn't have had the same impact as it has with the length that it is now. While I know that that might turn some viewers off, overall, it's what they needed to do to tell this story right. Guys, The Wailing was a really original movie that if you're willing to put the time in that it demands, I think you're gonna have a really interesting experience with. Its length and pacing is gonna turn off some viewers, but it's extremely interesting, original story, great performances, character development, and an ending that will leave you one part satisfied and another part devastated all at the same time make it absolutely worth a rent.
All he wanted was this.
I have to return some videotape.
This is a hell of a movie that I recommend anybody check out that can handle the slow pace. So there it is, guys, my review of The Wailing. Still not 100% sure what the name means. If you enjoyed and want more content like this, hit that subscribe button to help my little channel grow. If you want to help out the channel, check out my Patreon in the description below and become a jarhead and get some of the awesome benefits that go along with that, like these guys. And possibly check out my top tier and become a bad motherfucker like my man Greg C and Dragon Con, where you too can request of me once a month, much like Greg C did this month, to review any movie of your choice. And yeah, Greg, that other one's coming for you in just a few days, and Dragon, so is yours. If you liked what I had to say, give me a like. If not, let me know in the comments below why. And as always, stay sexy, Busan. I wanted to take just a really quick second to say thank you to everybody over there on Patreon. Top tier, bottom tier, middle tier, whatever tier you're at, if you're over there on Patreon, thanks a lot. While I appreciate everyone who views one of my videos or subscribes to the channel, it's my patrons over on Patreon that take it that extra step, that are the real superstars. I plan on living things up there just a little bit more here, coming real soon. It's on the list, so be on the lookout for that. Not to get too sappy, but the past couple of months have been very turbulent for me personally, with lots of transitioning and stuff like that going on. So I really do appreciate all you guys hanging in there and sticking with me. I know I usually do like a little jokey thing here at the end of my videos, but today it's not about that. It's all about you guys. So in conclusion, I really do appreciate you guys a whole lot, and thanks for hanging in there. Stay sexy, Patreon. Jesus Christ, that last part was corny. I could have kept that shit.